Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining me once again in this video. I have here today these Hot Toys Avengers Endgame Thor, and let's see if this figure is still worth it to collect. Or probably not. Let's take a look at the figure in detail. Now let me get the figure out of the box first and all of the accessories that comes with it for us to have a better view of its details. Now here are the accessories that come with this figure. And I think this version of Hot Toys Thor figure really comes with a lot of accessories that I think can give you more options to do some cool poses, especially when you are doing some toy photography. And if you paired it with the other Hot Toys Avengers Endgame figures like the Avengers Trinity, I think it would definitely put your creativity to the test, which is something that I always look forward to in every 1/6 scale figure that I collect. Later in this video, I will try to share some poses on this figure, and let's see how poseable this figure is and also its limitations for you to have a better idea of this figure. Now here's the first weapon that comes with this figure, called the Stormbreaker. Hot Toys have really done an amazing job here as they have upgraded this accessory compared to the previous version release of the Avengers Infinity War Thor figure. It shows more corners and edges, looks heavier, and a much more solid representation as shown in the movie. And I think this version looks superior versus the previous version in my opinion. The weathering effect paint applied to this accessory was done impressively, and the high level of detail is really amazing on hand. The handle is much better in detailed in my opinion. It is made out of a piece of Groot, which has a wood-like weathering paint application that really looks great and neat compared to the old version. This accessory also has a blue colored gradient light, which I think is a cool feature that Hot Toys added to this version, and it illuminates quite nicely in low light. Then you can mix it up with this lightning effect to add more effects to your display. I will try to show you more in detail later in this video. The issue I see here with this accessory is that when batteries are installed and all of the lightning effects are mounted, you should use this fixed wrist peg in order for this accessory to have more stability in your display, because it's kind of a heavy on hand, so try not to forget to change the wrist peg to this fixed one. Now here's the second weapon that comes with this figure, the Mjolnir. This accessory looks painted nicely with enough weathering and good detail that I think it is accurate based on what we saw in the movie. And it also has a light up feature that produces the same gradient blue colored lightning effect, just like the Stormbreaker has. And it also comes with this luminous lightning effect, which is a cool addition to this accessory. This figure also comes with interchangeable hands to maximize more poses for this figure. It comes with these gesturing hands for some poses like retrieving or throwing the Mjolnir or the Stormbreaker. And it also has these relaxed hands for some museum poses while holding the Stormbreaker standing up. And lastly, these weapon grabbing hands, which have two options. This one is slightly open specifically for the Mjolnir accessory, and this one, which is much bigger open hand for the Stormbreaker. And it also comes with these lightning effects that can be mounted to the figure's body and also in its arms to have a seamless lightning effect, which I will try to show you more later in this video for a better appreciation. Now here's the movie theme display base that comes with this figure, which is a very neat display base that has a simple printed Thor in front. And as I mentioned in my previous video, this is a kind of display base that is a good space saver in my opinion, because as we all know, even though it is fun to collect these 1/6 scale figures, they really eat up a lot of space. So something to think about before making any purchase of these figures. And it also comes with a dynamic stand to provide you with some flight poses with this figure, which I will try to show you some simple flight poses later in this video. And also, just a reminder, I think you should avoid putting your figure in this clamp for a very long time, as it may damage the armor part of the figure. Now let's take a look in detail at this head sculpt of Chris Hemsworth's likeness as Thor in the movie, which I think was well crafted by Hot Toys. This is a newly developed head sculpt that also shows the pair of different colored eyes that I think were previously applied to the Infinity War Thor head sculpt version, on which Hot Toys also applied the same luminous reflective effects to the figure's eyes. So, using a UV blacklight, you can see the luminous reflective effect in these eyes, which is quite an impressive cool feature, especially if you are planning to have a display setup that switches your lights from a normal LED room light to a UV blacklight, which I think is an amazing display setup to have. Now, the facial expression on this head sculpt looks like a movie accurate in my opinion, but it only has this neutral facial expression, which I think would have been amazing if there was an alternative head sculpt that looked like this one from the final battle scene, which would be an extremely stunning setup options in the display case to have. This head sculpt has sculpted wavy brown hair and a long braided beard, which I believe would probably restrict some head poses in the figure, while the sculpted ponytailed tip on its beard requires extra care when moving the head sculpt. This is something to keep in mind when handling this figure. Now, this red cape attached to the figure looks tailored nicely, and Hot Toys added some nice folds into the cape that really put more detail on the figure. And it also has some great details on the side of this cape, which is quite nicely done. And the underneath garment used on this cape is not just an ordinary black cloth. They use a cloth that has hexagonal pattern on it, which I think would have been appreciated more if they made this a wired cape to perfectly complement the figure's look. Now let's talk about this specialized body that Hot Toys did to represent very well Thor's physical changes in the movie. Looking at the figure straight on and also on the side, you can immediately notice the beer belly on this molded hard plastic armor suit, which is a good representation of the movie. The upper thighs of this figure also have the same foam-like material to make them look more fatty, and I think the material they used on the pants is a rubbery matte material, which Hot Toys also put some great detail. Although I think you can only get this much bend on this material, which I think is only good for a walking pose or a slightly bent knee flight pose. And the double jointed knee can only get this much, which I think is enough for this figure. Now there is a pleather material just underneath the hard plastic armor, which I think would need some extra care, like probably putting some pleather moisturizer just to extend its life before it flakes out. This figure also has the bootcut design for seamless movement on the ankles, which is a great design on this figure. But I won't rely solely on getting this figure on the right balance stance when displaying it, as I would rather use the display base with a crouch grabber or a dynamic stand, as I think this figure is prone to tipping over when not securely displayed. So some precautions to think of when displaying this figure. And as I mentioned earlier in this video, this figure also comes with lighting effects that can be mounted into the figure and have LED lights to add a more seamless lighting look. You have to remove these 6 buttons and mount these lighting effects on the figure. Now here is what it looks like when these lightning effects are mounted to the figure. I have already installed the batteries to save time, and to activate the LED lights, there is a switch at the back of the figure. So here is what it looks like when the switch is on, and honestly, it looks amazing on hand, which I think is a great feature of this figure. You also have the option to add more lightning effects to the figure's arms. You will need to remove these arms and apply the lightning effects, then replace them with the arms that you want to use based on the figure pose that you want to achieve in your photos. Now here is what it looks like when all the lightning effects are mounted to the figure, which I think, by the looks of it, there's a lot of posing options that you can think of for this figure in your display. Now here is the side-by-side height comparison of this figure against the Iron Man Mark 85 figure, which I think looks perfectly scaled in my opinion. And the proportion of the body used on both figures is scaled quite nicely together. Here is also the side-by-side comparison with Thanos, which also looks perfectly scaled in my opinion. Now here is what they look like together, which is a cool figure display to have, and they are scaled nicely together and looks great in the display case. Let me know in the comment section below what you think of these figures together. Now going back to my question, if this is a good buy or a pass, I have two things in mind that I want to share with you. It is still a good buy if your main plan is to have a complete Avengers Endgame MCU Trinity display just like in this photo. Or maybe the original 6-figure Endgame version, just like this one. Which I think is a cool display to have in your MCU collection. But for other reasons than that, I think this figure is a simple pass for me. Especially if you already have the previous version of Thor and you are very much happy with it, and I think there's no need to buy this version. But if you are still starting up with your collection journey just like me, and you have a chance to complete your very own Avengers Endgame MCU Trinity, you can't go wrong with this figure, which I think from the time of this recording, the price is much cheaper now, plus shipping costs depending on your location. Or you can wait for another round of sale, which you can get more discount on this figure. So it is really up to your collection plans in getting your own MCU Avengers team, so either a mixed version or a complete set, because Hot Toys is not going to pass on producing Thor figures to represent on every MCU movie. So you really have to make a plan and stick with it and be happy with your decision. And always remember to enjoy the journey of collecting these awesome figures, because I believe that every figure has its own story to tell, which is cool to be shared within the community. So stay awesome and be cool to everyone. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please feel free to hit me with a like and consider subscribing to the channel so that you'll be notified of any upcoming video releases. And if you have any questions about the content you've seen today, feel free to put them in the comments section below. And as always, build fond memories through these collectibles and always show your geek side to the whole world. And be awesome. Till next time, Andrew Geek Side here. Stay safe and bye for now.